And maybe, we should extract a penalty. If you switch off a video more than 5 minutes, you contribute 100 rupees to the RAL's Medley Fund. How's that? Dr. Sheikh Shakil and Sushil Paur will be very happy because District 125's contribution to Medley Fund will go up tremendously by that. But okay, I don't see any penalty also creating any response in people right now. So Ashraf, I'll ask you to keep a tap of this so that we'll send them a bill at the end of the session. So let me start off by asking you all a question, right? And I asked this to some of the people who are there. Why are you here today? Because sponsoring a club seems to be a very painful task or responsibility. And if all of you are sitting here today, it's obviously you have nothing better to do on a Saturday morning, and that's why you came for this session. But besides that, why is the reason you're here? And some of you have answered, but can you quickly type out in the chat message and let me know why are you here today? What do you really want to get out of this session? Because when we discuss today, we'll try to cover those facets rather than taking you some standard PowerPoint presentation that TI has created. So can you quickly put on a chat message? What do you want to take out of today's session? What do you want to walk out once we finish this session today? And hopefully you've been here physically in front of a system listening in. Then what is it that you want to take away from this session? Can I see some chat messages, please? I don't think chat is disabled, right, Ashraf? No, so you can put it on chat message. Yeah, go ahead. Let's start seeing some activity. Real life challenges faced during sponsoring. Okay, nice. What else? Understanding the role of a club sponsor from a club sponsor's perspective. Nice, very good. Journey to sponsor. Okay, why to become a sponsor? Sushil, you should not be asking a question. Maybe we should ask you to tell everybody why you should become a sponsor. So then Pawan says building a team. Okay, nice. What else? Money matters. Ashraf, I didn't think you were so money minded that you thought you'll earn money from sponsoring clubs. Okay, who else? What else? How to know who's looking for sponsors? Okay. Is it even possible to volunteer? Okay, yeah. I mean, why not? Okay, good. We'll keep these questions on. It's good to see all of these questions coming in. So let's ask the first question, really speaking, right? And obviously you can keep adding in the points even later on, because we will try to ensure that I'll keep a look upon these points and try to cover them as it is. Let's take Sushil Pawar's question first. Why should you become a sponsor? And I'd like to hear answers from you all. Why do you think you should be volunteering to sponsor a club? And that potentially can become an answer to the question of Srividya. Is it even possible to volunteer? Absolutely. You need not be an area director. You need not be a district officer. You need not be even a club ExCom member. You could just be a normal member. And if you feel the opportunity that presents itself, yes, you can volunteer to put in the efforts to sponsor a club. So,
but actually, sorry to interrupt, but my question was slightly different. So I have been volunteering for Speechcraft, right? And that was also a prelude to sponsoring, rather, right? Awareness, and then they were like conversion of the members from the Speechcraft program to a club. That's how it happened. But when I was talking about sponsoring or chartering, they said no, the charter member usually sponsors, and also they choose the mentors, right? And it is not possible for you to basically go and say that I'll become a sponsor, because it is a brainchild of the person who's chartering the club. So that is why I posed the question.
Right. Okay. Good. Good. I understood that question. Thanks, Srividya. We'll clarify that as we go along. So why do you think that you should be sponsoring a club? What's the benefit to you? Anybody wants to answer that quickly? And again, please, videos on. Gentlemen, ladies, love to see your fabulous faces. Yeah. What is the benefit to you if you sponsor a club?
If we see personal growth, then there won't be much point. If we want to volunteer, as the mission of the Toastmaster is also there, so if we want to see the growth and want to help the people, then only it will be beneficial for us. Like if we are here to learn, it means we want to see the change, and we want people to help them to express themselves.
Thanks, Sumita. That's a wonderful point of view. So the first element that comes, yes, anybody wants to add?
Personally, it is a good exercise in increasing your power of persuasive influence.
Absolutely.
Because you are able to convince people to join an organization, it's a win-win. So
Yeah.
developing that skill set adds to the personal growth.
Absolutely right. So wonderful. I think we seem to have questions that have come out here. 3 points that have emerged. One is
sorry to interrupt you. One more thing is how you build a club and how you run the club consistently. That also makes a personal achievement and as well as professional achievement.
Absolutely right. You have a fourth point here. Anybody wants to add to that? See, all the answers are within this group itself. My work is just to draw them out now. My work is not to tell you anything. Yeah. Anybody else wants to add to that?
So, Toastmaster Ajay, I would say, as a club sponsor, we get to display the value of service from Toastmasters Rise to the fullest.
Wonderful. That's a fabulous point, Kunal. Thank you for that. So you demonstrate the value that we really have of service, right? In fact, something else also, excellence also you demonstrate, right? When you do everything right. So all of these elements that really come in. Wonderful. So you guys have given all the answers that we really want, right? That means you aid your own growth. First of all, as an individual, you aid your growth as a leader, because one is to be able to, as maybe a VP membership or as a member who's helping somebody else to join a club, maybe that is persuasive skill efforts elements. But if you are able to get a club off the ground, that itself is taking it to the next level, because this is not just 1 or 2 people you're impacting now. You're impacting minimum of 20 people to begin with, and it adds on to that. Like, again, you mentioned that you are working upon your team building skills, because a club is never formed by your own effort. You're really enrolling the activities as well as the energies of many other people around you. So you are building your leadership skills in terms of team building skills. You also spoke about the fact that you are able to leverage and utilize the values of Toastmasters of service. That means, are you contributing back to the community? Are you giving that back? So that giving back, that service is something you're doing. And obviously, when you do it right, when you do the process right about putting in all the things in place, then you're also demonstrating excellence. Plus, you're ensuring that a new club, a fledgling club, is set off on the right track. So all of these things we have already covered, and those are the fundamental reasons. Anything else, Sushil, that you want to add to that in terms of why should somebody sponsor a club?
I think every point is covered well. The only point which I will focus on, creating self persona. So when we sponsor a club, then we have to interact with people with whom we never interact, be it organization L&D, be it organization leaders, be it common employees, and addressing their questions. That makes our growth as an individual much higher. So that is my why to be a sponsor.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thanks, Sushil. That's a great point. We spoke about individual development first, personal development and growth first. And this is an addition in terms of thought process there, that at the end of the day, you are adding value, the ability to go to different sorts of people, to understand the challenges, to understand these issues, to pitch it itself can be there. If you personally ask me, this could be something that could be taken in as an HPL project. You can always take it as an HPL project and run with it. Beyond that, so that's a benefit that you can get in if you aspire to build up yourself to complete a certain path where an HPL is required. The second element that you can always look at it, and that towards your DTM completion itself, it becomes one of the elements that can help you, because being a club sponsor or a mentor is something that you get a benefit out of in your DTM requirements too. So these are all of these are external. The two of these all the first elements were internal. The last two we call it external, because they are going to aid you in terms of completing either paths or maybe your DTM journey. So I hope with that we've answered the questions about why should you sponsor a club. Let's quickly answer that question about which was posed out here in terms of saying that, hey, who becomes a sponsor? So obviously the people who put in the initial effort, and that's what we are going to talk about today, the people who put in the initial effort. And obviously any club that gets sponsored, that gets chartered, will typically have at the most 2 sponsors. So it's not that even if 10 people put in the efforts to get the club chartered out, it is the core set of those initial 2 people who put in all the effort. First of all, a brainchild is a good starting point, but effort also is requirement. So obviously the starting point is somebody who comes up with a thought and the concept saying, hey, let's open this club here. The second element that is correlated and related to that is the effort that is taken by that person or persons. Like I said, there are two people who typically can get a benefit as a club sponsor, who really put in that effort. And we will talk about that during the course of today's session. What are the efforts that one needs to be taking? Now, which means it also means that it is possible that, yes, there were 3 people, 4 people, 5 people stayed there, and possibly you are amongst that. I won't say no, and you put in good efforts. Like I said, again, we come to Toastmasters for the benefit that we get in terms of our own growth and development. And that is obviously the way that you developed and benefit from that experience. Now that experience, you can take it when some other point of time you have an opportunity to be able to open up an additional club somewhere. All of that experience you're able to leverage and utilize. So this is the way that you look at it. In fact, that's the same way that we do even in an XCOM, right? We don't directly go on and take a president's role. In the similar way, we take up other roles, learn leadership elements within other roles, and then we progressively go towards the next one. Same way, possibly in a club sponsor activity, maybe initially you are a part of a team that helped to charter a club, and you learned what is required, what to do and what not to do. So when you yourself become a sponsor in the future subsequently, now you can utilize, leverage all of that learning and make it to best use when you land up sponsoring a club. So Srividya, I hope I've answered that particular question that you asked.
Ajay, my doubt is slightly different, right?
Okay.
So, yeah, you answered partially. I completely agree with your point, right? So, when I was running, I was one of the coordinator for Speechcraft. The aim wasn't actually to sponsor; it was to learn what happens, right? And then
Right.
take it up in the future. But my point is, say for example, if I want to be a club mentor or if I want to be a club coach, I talk to my area director. And then he basically considers me for the role, and then there is like forms or whatever is to be filled up. But now I'm asking, the same option is available if I want to sponsor a club, or as you say, I have to be in touch with the person who's chartering it, because there is no nomination available per se for a sponsor.
That's right. That's right. So quickly answer to that question is what I said initially. Did you originate the concept of creating a new club, either a community or a corporate or a college club? And were you integrally involved in terms of having that moving from a concept to a fructification or actual charter? I think those are the two requirements. So because of which you can't volunteer for a sponsor role, you volunteer to identify the opportunity and then you work upon it. And because you've done all of that, that is why you get designated as a sponsor. That is the way to look at it. So you volunteer not for that the title as a sponsor, you volunteer for the activity. And when that activity is turning into an actual club charter and you have put in substantial efforts into that, then automatically you will be one of the sponsors for the club. So we will hold any other questions that we have till the end of the session. Let's cover up what is really involved in terms of getting a club off the ground. So anybody wants to answer, give me an answer in terms of what are the kind of clubs that really exist out there? When you talk about Toastmasters Club, what are the various kinds of Toastmasters Club that you can possibly have? Can you put it on a chat message, please? What are the various kinds of Toastmasters Club that can exist? Okay, community, corporate, absolutely two very well known types. Okay, advanced clubs, absolutely right. Anything else? Specific, specific clubs. Oh, parent teacher club will become corporate,
Team
community,
club.
advanced. Sorry, go ahead.
Theme clubs, I said.
Team clubs.
Theme. Like
Team, that's right.
entrepreneur
So
club.
corporate,
book
entrepreneurs,
club.
then absolutely. So you're absolutely right. All of you have got that right. So obviously you'll have community clubs, you'll have a corporate club, you also have college clubs. You have within community, what you have is basically theme clubs like entrepreneurs or like finance professionals or something like that, or trainers and stuff like that. So that is what you call either specialty or theme or anything like that. And then obviously you have the advanced clubs. So these are the various categories of clubs that you can possibly have. So as a club sponsor or somebody who's interested in sponsoring a club, what it starts off saying that, hey, you're looking around yourself, you're looking at your network, you're looking at your community that you're a part of, and then figuring it out that is there an opportunity for a club to get chartered? Now, because you might be living in an area which doesn't have geographically a Toastmasters club and you feel that there's a great potential, and if you put in the effort, that is how you can create a community club. A corporate is a no-brainer, either in your own organization or some other organization that you are well connected to. You see the potential for a Toastmasters club to come up. So that's where a corporate club comes in. And college club comes in the same way. Either you're associated with college or you have good networks in a college, you see the potential, and that is where it comes in. An advanced club will obviously come out if you have a community of Toastmasters who are interested in taking their learning skills to the next level by formation of a new advanced club that you can have. So that you'll need to be networking within the Toastmasters community to form an advanced club. And a specialty club or a theme club, like we all discussed, is where you are a part of a community where, like, an entrepreneurs or training professionals or teachers or something like that, and you see a potential, or CAs, and you see a potential to be forming a club there. So first element that starts off by looking at as a sponsor role is saying that, hey, where is an opportunity that really exists? Now, once you identify that opportunity, what you really have to look at and understand is that anything that you start doing, and we call this the sales process, right? And the sales process has 4 stages, in my opinion. There is a first stage that is called awareness. The second stage is called interest. The third stage is called conviction. And the fourth stage is called action. So I call it the AICA model, AICA, awareness, interest, conviction, and action. So once you understand that you've identified this community, right, then you have to be thinking through these 4 stages of moving that group of people or that community or that corporate through these 4 stages. So you have to first of all start from ultimately the awareness stage. The awareness stage is what? That the people in that community, that corporate, whatever else you're looking at, are they aware about what is Toastmasters? So you start spreading awareness. Now, awareness is spread out by putting up posters, sending out WhatsApp messages, sending up emails, and whatever you're really doing to ensure that people are aware that a concept like Toastmasters really exists, right? So that's the starting point. This is what we call really awareness. Awareness in marketing language or sales language is where, when you have advertising that really happens, that just communicates that this is what it is. So whatever else you are doing, now if you're in a community, like I said, if you're in a geographic community, and let's take, there is an area in Pune or Goa that you want to open a new club and you see a potential that this is a large enough community, then you might land up creating posters and putting up at maybe the gyms or maybe, the places around there, something like that. So that is there. If you go to a corporate and you want to create awareness, then possibly it might start off by ensuring that you put up an introduction letter to the senior management of the organization or the HR teams to first of all tell them that, hey, there is a concept like Toastmasters which can be a benefit to your organization. So in the same way, whether in a college, so anything that you do, the first thing starts with awareness. How do you make sure that you are making the people aware about the concept of Toastmasters? That's the first stage. So when you want to charter a club, don't ignore this stage. Don't jump to saying I will do a demo meeting and all that stuff. That's good. But we will come to that stage as we go along. So once you do an awareness, put in the effort to create awareness in that community that you're really talking about by doing all of this stuff, right? Then you come to the interest stage. The interest stage is where now that people are aware that something like a Toastmaster exists, it can help you in your leadership or communication skills and communication skills, then they are obviously wanting to be interested. Now, who are the people who get interested? The people who feel a need, right? Because if I feel that, hey, I have good communication skills, then I'm going to ignore that awareness concept that you put out. Because hey, this is not really required for me. If I feel that I'm already a great leader or whatever, I don't need any inputs in leadership, then obviously I might not be interested in that. So what you really come to is the next stage of interest. Now, to be able to put out an interest, see, awareness, you're just telling people there is something like Toastmasters that exists that you can do. Now, the interest starts coming in when people start seeing, hey, this is going to solve an issue or a problem that I have, right? So you have to be able to get that connect, where when people see a connect between a problem that they have and a solution that you are able to offer through a Toastmasters club, then they become interested. And how do you really do that? So how to pitch you're putting it then? Yeah, we'll come to that, Swapna, as we go along. So at the end of the day, you have to connect to the problem statement. If you're putting it on the community, if you're among students, just for example, then the pitch could be something like in a communication again to say that, hey, after you finish your education, your first entry into the corporate world is through a job interview. How do you want to fare in a job interview will only happen if you build your communication skills, just for example. In a corporate, it could be saying that, hey, you might be technically very good in your job, but it's very important that you are able to communicate effectively with stakeholders inside the organization, outside the organization, to your leadership team. So you need to build communication skills. Or, you are great technically speaking, but you've never had the exposure of handling and supporting people. So how do you build leadership? So you are able to address specifically a problem. Like when it comes to Entrepreneurs Club, what we really point out is that as a business person or as a startup founder, you need to be able to pitch yourself effectively to investors, to customers, right? So learn that skill. And also as your organization grows, you need to build leadership skills. So you will have to be able to target what could be a particular pain point for that group that you're addressing and ensure that you are putting that across, you're pitching that to them as the specific benefit, right? So you have to do a needs analysis of that community or that segment. And then you have to pitch to them saying that, hey, this is the reason why Toastmasters, because if you go with generic stuff, it's not going to work, because generic stuff is only generic. Most of the people will ignore it because they'll say, hey, this doesn't connect to what problem I have. So specify the problem and specify the solution of how Toastmasters is a good solution for that particular problem. So this is why that awareness element is very important. Depending upon the place that you're wanting to charter a new club or get a new club off the ground, you should ensure you put in that effort. It's good that Toastmasters is giving you a lot of standard communication. That's very good. But you have to go to the next level by addressing that. So if you go to a corporate and go to an HR team, and one of the things I tell to an HR person, that this is the best way for you to identify your future leaders in your organization. Because somebody who comes to a Toastmasters club, takes initiative and learns leadership here, imagine how effective he'll be tomorrow when he has a formal leadership role, right? So it becomes something that the HR team connects to. HR teams typically have this kind of challenge that internal stakeholders complain that, hey, because a lot of our corporate clubs are in the IT sector, I'm talking from that point of view. You hear this complaint frequently in the HR that the people are technically good, but they are not able to communicate effectively. So if you are able to tell them that, hey, you face this issue, there are many of your people who face these challenges. The Toastmasters Club is a good way to build this, and it's not a training program, right? It's a self-learning experience because of which people are able to learn by doing. So when you are able to communicate the problem and the solution to them, that is when they really start taking an interest, right? So this is a very important stage that you have to move to. How do you pitch to them is by ensuring you attack a problem statement that they have and specify. Don't list out 10 problems. List out the top 2 or 3 problems and list out how a Toastmasters club is a good solution to the problem. So this is when it comes to interest now. I'm going to pause here for a minute and ask you, do you have any questions or anything? Just put it in the chat message so that I'll address them before I go to the next 2 stages, which is conviction and action. Anybody has any questions about awareness and interest that I gave you concepts upon? I hope somewhere, Swapna, I've answered your question how to pitch.
I have a question, but not on this in general, but maybe I'll ask you at the end of the session.
Okay, fine. You can ask at the end of the session, not a problem. I'm just looking at what are the other questions that are there? Yeah, go ahead. Anything point?
I have a question. This is Toastmaster Ashraf.
Yeah.
How do you formally contact in case of a corporate club, if you are trying to charter a corporate club, whom to contact, and is there any standard format that Toastmasters International prescribes or recommends through which we contact it, maybe in an email format or anything in print? Is there anything that we can use?
So good question, Ashraf. In my answer to that question will be, suppose you are talking about the concept of corporate right now. You should be looking at maybe what is the size of the corporate organization you're really talking about. If it's a huge MNC, very large one, which has maybe 10,000 people or something employed there, then obviously you can't. So basically, depending upon the size of the organization, you decide which level you have to target it for. Now, in my opinion, a huge organization, ultimately, you should be looking at somebody who is the L&D head, right? Because that's something which they have the budgets and they have a requirement to be able to put in programs that can have that. Or the other part in a very large organization is when there is an employee engagement team or activities that really happen. Because even Toastmasters and a lot of organizations falls into that category where they want to offer employees many opportunities and options to develop themselves when it starts with dramatics, photography, stuff like that, fitness. And Toastmasters could be communication skills building in a very large organization. Once you come down to the scale of a mid-sized organization, then possibly that is where you start talking about either the head of HR as it is, because that's a good place, because L&D person in a medium-sized organization is much younger and won't have the decision-making power. So my recommendation in a mid-sized organization, you go and talk to the head of HR in that particular organization and then pitch to them the benefits from people development as well as skill development, all of these put together. Because then HR and L&D both fall under the head of HR mostly in a mid-sized organization. When you come to even a smaller organization, typically where you're talking about 500 people or 1,000 people kind of organization, there I would recommend you should pitch to either the head of that business out there. So in many organizations, you also have a smaller team operation happening in your particular city, right? Like in Goa, it's possible. There's a large organization that is across India, has many employees, but in Goa has maybe a team of 600 or 800 people. In that particular case, you go to the unit head or the SBU head for that particular either unit, or in an organization, you go to the CEO of the organization. So this is my recommendation. Based upon the size of an organization, you should figure out who's the right person to be able to get there. That's. I hope that answers that question. Am I good on that? Now, the next question might be, how do you really open the doors or get to them? Now, this is where it becomes, like I said, the starting point. See, technically, if you look at it, Pune could technically have maybe 500 clubs, because there are more than 500 organizations or 1,000 organizations that can easily have a Toastmasters club. Why is it that we can't do that? Is because Toastmasters needs, at least in the corporates and all specifically, needs a connect, right? That means you have to be able to have open the door to somebody's mind, because you are getting through some sort of a process where they are also now open to the thought process. Now, where does it happen? It happens where you are able to get a connect. So you are able to figure out, suppose I'm going after this organization. The logic that you should be thinking about is that, can I get connected to this person, somebody that I know? So that's the first starting point you can look at. And what's the best way to do that is, you identified this particular organization and you're talking about the HR head. You've been able to identify the name of the HR head, because that's not impossible to do. Now go on LinkedIn and look at that person and saying that, hey, are there any people in common that I know between myself and him? Can I get an introduction to this person? Can that open a door? So that's a good start. Otherwise, either within your networks or within your community, or if you've met them, because I meet a lot of people who are CEOs or head of HRs in events that I go to, right? And typically, obviously, when I land up introducing myself and say, hey, I'm a Toastmaster, and they've heard about Toastmasters somewhere, and I say, hey, it could be a good opportunity for you to get a club in it. So these conversations are the ones that spark off, that you are able to take up. Maybe in a party or in a get-together or in a function, you meet somebody somewhere. You don't have to pitch everything. That is the stage you only put awareness there. The next stage, because you open the door, when you meet them, you will go to the other step. So these are the mechanisms that you use to open door. Now, it's very rare that you will be able to do a cold call. That means, walk in and then try to pitch. It doesn't work. So I won't really recommend it. I'm not a fan of trying to sell Toastmasters like that. So I won't recommend it. I would say leverage connects. And that's the reason why a sponsor's role starts, because you should have the connects, right? If you have the connects, then it opens doors. It opens the doors of the mind. If not, even if you don't get a club chartered, people are willing to meet you and listen to you. That is what you really need. That awareness, interest stage is what you have to get through. That's all you need to do at the first level. I hope I answered your question, Ashraf. Okay. Anybody has any other questions on awareness and interest? Yeah, Pawan, you have a question?
Yeah, sorry, sir. I don't know whether I can ask. It may look silly. See, now we are doing all this Toastmasters and all for everything to improve our performance, personal skills, everything, right?
Yeah.
Now, since most of us are all on WhatsApp group, Telegram group, everybody is having a family members of cousins kind of thing like this. The cousins' children will be having more than that. Can we do this type of club? Is it so the Toastmasters will allow us so that now if in my family if I have 8 to 10 cousins, their children, we can start them building up the Toastmaster with communication, leadership skill like that only. Is it possible?
Yeah, it's possible. It's very much possible. See, we are into awareness stage now. So if you are part of various groups, or even in your family group or friends groups or whatever community group, society group, you can always put out a saying that, hey, I'm a Toastmaster, I've benefited, and I would love to figure out if you are interested or something like that. Now, this is where you're still creating awareness. So yeah, absolutely. Because ultimately, what you really want is somebody who's aware, is now wanting to talk to you. And when you're talking to you now, you're able to take it to the next stage. So does that answer your question, Pawan?
Yes. No, because why is since
your voice is slightly low, Pawan. Can you be either closer to the mic or something? Because I'm not able to hear you clearly.
Okay. Now, is it okay?
Slightly better. We might want to increase your mic volume in your system or your phone.
Okay. Now, my question is, because since now all the children are all tech savvy, and most of the children know how to operate mobile phones and laptops. like people in SLC or high school level, if we can open the get them aware of the Toastmaster and try to build them knowledge of the skills, what is required. That is what my question was.
So you're talking about school children.
High school children, high school and SLC level children.
But high school children aren't above the age of 18, Pawan, because the minimum requirement to join Toastmasters is to be above the age of 18. Prior to 18, what we have something is called a Gavels Club. And that is something that you can pursue separately if you want. But Gavels Club is a different process of chartering and formation and all that stuff. The fees are structured are different. So you can have a separate conversation with the CGD, Sushil, if you want to get more perspective on the Gavels Club. But it won't really work for high school and anybody below 18 because the minimum requirement to join Toastmasters is an age of 18 years.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, wonderful. Any other questions before whatever questions or comments or anything that you want to clarify? Yeah, Sushil?
I will just look at Pawan's situation or Pawan's proposal in a different angle. So what if I want to start a Toastmaster club for my near and dear ones, someone whom I can influence? Can I get that started? So for example, I'm part of 5 WhatsApp group, and out of 5 WhatsApp group, each is having like 30 members. So like out of 150 members, I see potential that 20 members can join. So can we have?
So can you have? Sorry.
So we can also have lead started from that angle also.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, today now you have the advantage of doing even if you happen to have these 150 people physically close to you, you can obviously do a physical club or a club in the same city. You can do that even if they are online and they are in different cities. You could always create an online club also, because that's an advantage that today we have, that we also have online clubs, whether it's a corporate or a community club, right? You can create a community club online. And if you find people who are interested and are keen on it, but only be mindful of this element of understanding that awareness is a stage and interest is a stage. If you haven't gone through awareness, you can't come through interest, right? So this is something that you need to understand to be able to charter a club or sponsor a club. This understanding of the system mechanism through which somebody's mindset is going through is very important for us. And when we don't understand this, when we try to rush in and we think, and this is where I'll come to some of the other elements which I see that people think that doing a demo meeting is the best way to charter a club. My dear friends, if you haven't created awareness and you haven't created interest, demo meeting is the next stage of what I call conviction, right? So this is where people make mistakes. People, because they don't understand that your prospects and that either in a community or a corporate or a college, they have to go through those stages before they will come to the conviction stage. And this is where a lot of people, and that is where people have a challenge. They feel that I did a demo meeting, nothing happened out of it. The only problem was that you did not take that organization or those people through awareness and conviction stage before you got them to a conviction stage, right? So conviction and interest, awareness and interest, if you don't take people through, then conviction automatically is not going to work. So please understand this. So let me jump on because I don't see any other questions. And I hope I've answered that question of yours, Sushil, in terms of either an online club or a community club of whatever people that you have. Okay, so let's move on right now. Like I said, now we've covered awareness, we've covered interest. Now we come to the conviction stage. Now, when you see that there is an interest now, because the need you've identified and the people in front of you are articulating, yes, we understand, we agree with you, this is a problem we face. Either at a community club where people say, yes, I face this problem, and I think we should create a club here. This will be a great initiative. You have a bunch of people who are coming together and saying that we want this. Or it could be, it could be chartered accountants. It could be some other organization that say that, hey, this is a good thing. In the same way, in a corporate, when you have the head of HR or L&D head or the business head, they agree with you that, hey, this is a great thing. And I think we should be looking at this. This is where now you've ignited their interest. And because you ignited their interest, now you can start thinking of now, how do I now get them to conviction? And this is where, and the whole point that I'm trying to say is that a lot of people rush in trying to say this is what Toastmasters costs and all that. It's irrelevant this stage, because till the time you are not able to demonstrate the value of what Toastmasters is, then anything putting monetary conversation, how much does it cost, is a waste of time, right? Because you are only going to create an additional confusion in their mind. When you see a value in something that you're paying for, then you're willing to pay for it. If I see a value of joining a community, there are communities that I am a part of where I pay thousands of rupees as membership fees. Okay, it's not like the amount of money that we pay in Toastmasters is such a small amount. I pay maybe in a couple of lakhs also in some organization, but because I see the value of that membership, I'm willing to pay that amount. The same way, unless and until some person doesn't see the value of what you're going to be offering, then talking about cost or talking about anything else before that, talking about structure of a club or anything, this is a secondary thing. So this is what you have to be understanding, that you have to be clear in your mind and you have to get that clear signal from that group of people that there is an interest now. And based on that interest is where you move to the next stage. And the next stage of that is conviction. And how does a conviction really you drive? Conviction you really drive, again, depending on the various communities that you may be doing, either in a community and all. This is where possibly you can do an open house session, right? How do you do an open house session? Because in a corporate, now you have that leadership team convinced that yes, a Toastmasters thing could be good for us. But the leadership team is not going to force their employees to join. Now to do that, you have to be able to show them that there are enough of employees that are interested. So you do an open house. An open house is a session where a couple of Toastmasters go to a corporate and possibly make a presentation of what is Toastmasters, what is the benefit that members have because of that, how does it help them, share some examples of people whose lives changed because they were a part of Toastmasters, whose career trajectories went to a different tangent and went on a higher level because they were a part of Toastmasters. And we have enough stories like that in our community. Take real life stories, take stories of people who have succeeded, because just talking about Toastmasters as communication, Toastmasters doesn't help. We all learn in Toastmasters that the power of stories. So take those stories. If you are able to take along with you somebody like this who is a part of some other club and they have seen personal growth in their professional growth in their journey, take them along to really talk about it. Because that is more powerful than any slide statement that you'll put up saying that Toastmasters helps you in this way and that way. So an open house is a good idea. Open house has two things. One is that the leadership team starts saying, okay, there are employees who are interested in this and employees also want to come forward. So something like that. If you're doing in a community the same way, in the community, then people start stepping forward. So then there is an interest to be able to take it forward. And this is also the part where you can possibly put in even a demo meeting. Then you could have an open house followed by a demo meeting, or you could have only a demo meeting if you want, because the demo meeting takes a lot of time, energy, and effort. You need to be bringing in a lot of Toastmasters to come in, to be a part of it, to support you in a demo meeting. There's a huge amount of energy and effort involved. So till the time you've not built the interest, don't do a demo meeting. Do an open house if you can, even before you demo meeting. My recommendation to all of you all. It might take you 2 steps, but it is far more smarter strategy to really do that, put in that effort into an open house and then do a demo meeting. Because when you do both now, back to back, I mean, in terms of some duration, now you are really building the foundation in a very strong way. And that is where it really comes to the next stage. Now, before we go to the next stage, in the conviction element is where ultimately the people or those people who had that interest in their mind, now they start getting convinced, right, that this is a good, right solution now. Earlier, it was an hypothesis that I have a problem, this is a potential solution. Now at this stage, that potential solution now becomes absolutely the right solution. So that is that change between interest and conviction now. Now you've demonstrated to them, or you indicated to them what Toastmasters program offers, what is the benefit of creating a club, is how does it really benefit them. So now you got them to that mental stage of saying, yes, I had a problem. This was a potential solution earlier, but now I can understand why this is a fabulous solution, why this is far better. And really speaking, there are very few alternatives there in the world any which way. It's not that they have 25 alternatives that they can go and do. They have very finite options where they can actually help their people. In a corporate, they can just do a training program. All of us know, we have all been a part of corporates. So training program like a water on a hot pan. It disappears like this, right? It doesn't stay. Toastmasters program is ongoing. You keep learning by doing. It's not a one-shot flash in the pan kind of a situation. Everybody knows that. When you are able to communicate this and they are able to see that, right? That is when they start saying that, yes, this is the right solution for us, for our organization, for our community, or for our college. And that is the reason why we should now put in that effort to create that club in our midst right now. Now, this is where you land up with a slight bit of a digression. If you're talking about a community club, the process that you will do after this for action is different. In a corporate or any other places, the action will be slightly different from each other. Okay, so I will cover both of these in a way that it will help you to take it forward. So what are the actions? It doesn't require me to tell you that creating a demo meeting or an open house, please go with good planning. Please have a very good quality meeting. And it's not about the quality of the speaker. It's about the quality of the meeting or the planning, the preparation, ensuring that you do everything right, time management. This is crucial because, and don't necessarily take the best speakers or evaluators. Because at the end of that, Toastmasters is not about perfection in terms of that. In fact, if you are able to take people who are not so good, right, you are showing to people, hey, it's okay. It's okay to be not very good as a speaker, because in Toastmasters, it's a safe place to fail. You are actually demonstrating that. But never compromise upon the quality of your planning and execution of that either open house or a demo meeting. I've been to lots of demo meetings and all. I'm not a fan of demo meetings unless they're done well. Why? Is because when you do them badly, then you are leaving that poor first impression, right? Then they say, this is the end, because you're telling them later on that after the club is chartered, we'll support you. Now, what is the kind of support you will give when it is very clear that you are yourself not organized, you are not disciplined, you are not executing things well, right? It's very, very crucial because this is like an initial impression that you're creating. And that is the reason why don't rush into a demo meeting or anything. Plan it well, ensure you have the right people, execute agendas, planning, systematic, right? Don't do an haphazard job there, because by doing that, you're doing more damage than good. You're turning off people from what is Toastmasters. Toastmasters, when we talk about those 4 values, one of the values is excellence, right? So adhere to that value, especially when you're going for an open house or a demo meeting. This is something you cannot compromise upon. So I specified that again because I've seen enough people who rush in, do shoddy demo meetings, and they say, "Arey, I put in so much of effort, a club didn't happen." Why would you expect a club to happen if you didn't put in the right effort, right? That's very, very important. So I'll now come to the final stage. Any questions on either an open house or a demo meeting or something like that? Anybody would like to understand? And open houses can be done in communities also. You don't have to do it only in corporates. You can do open houses in communities also. In fact, when the first Entrepreneurs Club was chartered in Pune, in fact, the first club in India, we did about 10 such sessions. Okay, where we did open houses. We didn't do demo meetings. We had open houses. We had a meeting where we called people and say, hey, come and find out what Toastmasters is about. And we spoke about what is Toastmasters. Initially, there were just 5 people. Then it became 15 people. Then it became 25 people. And there will be some people who join you. There will be some people who don't join you. Even in Aurangabad happened, right? At the first club that we had outside Pune, the first community club in Aurangabad, it took us a year. I was the area director at that time. I started off as an area director. By the time I did my division director term, that's the time that the club got chartered. But it required us to go there once in a month, either myself or somebody else, and we would do open houses. And because of open houses and demo meeting combinations, it took us about a year to get the first club started. So don't think it's an overnight process. It takes time, it takes effort. But if you do it in the right fashion, it is unmistakably possible. It's very, very clearly possible. So you're talking about one of my experiences as a club sponsor. Maybe at the end, I'll talk about it, Srividya. Lots of experiences I have. On paper, in the TI website itself, I am the sponsor for 17 clubs and mentor for 2 clubs, as it is. But there are innumerable other clubs beyond. Sorry?
I said, wow.
Yeah, but the actual number of clubs that I've sponsored or helped to charter are more than about 30 or 35 so far. Across not only our district, but other districts also.
Let's have a session. I think it'll be a podcast. It'll be only your interview on your experiences.
No problem. Dinesh, you raised your hand. You have a question?
Yes, sir. I have one question. Open houses in communities. I think I know that we probably tap into some club or something. But what have been your experiences? What does work? Because corporate, you have a platform. But going into communities, where usually you tap in for open houses?
So any place, like I was also saying, right? You might have a CA association, right? Or you might have a small trade organization, trade association, or you might even go to a housing society, right? And request them for a time. Anywhere where a large bunch of people can come and hear you could be an opportunity. Now, there are enough communities, like when it comes to startups, there are enough communities. And the point is, like I said again, you have to go to the first stage, awareness. वो awareness वो community में करो पहले, फिर उसमें से interest जो लोग are you interested to know more, create some sort of a form that people respond to, then go to the next stage of doing the open houses. तुम directly जाओगे मैं open house करूंगा, कोई नहीं आएगा, because you're not prepared that base. So whatever you will do, that community that you tap into, that geography that you tap into, create that awareness, create that interest, and then when you go to that next stage of conviction, whether you do an open house or a demo meeting, is when you will start seeing the benefit out of that. When you rush into it, it won't work.
Understood. Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Yeah.
Ajay, sir,
Ashraf, you have a question?
I don't have a question, but I have a request. Since you alluded to your experience of chartering many clubs, I would request you to share with us your experience as a case study, maybe of a club, where from end to end, from the time to generated leads or you identify leads.
Okay, I'll talk about that also.
Handed it over to the club mentors. So if you can
cover
the entire spectrum for one particular
I'll do that. I'll do that at the end. Let me finish off the action stage in terms of what you really do to get that off the ground. Ram Prasad, you've raised your hand.
Sir, here. Sir, open house and demo meeting, how it differs, sir, actually? Like, basically, how it differs open house and demo meeting?
Yeah, so very simple answer to that question, Pawan Kumar, is that open house is where only a couple of Toastmasters go. They tell people what is Toastmasters, what is the benefit. You might have a PowerPoint presentation or you might just have a talk, right? Like I've told you, take along and share stories of how it has impacted people's lives, demonstrate to people. That is what an open house is. A demo meeting is what it sounds about, right? You go and actually do a complete meeting. You'll have a couple of speakers, you'll have evaluators, you'll do table topics, you'll have language evaluator, counter, you'll do all the roles so that people understand what is the way that a club meeting happens. So that's the difference between an open house and a demo meeting. Is that clear? Okay. Ram Prasad, you had a question.
Yes, I have a follow-up question to Dinesh's question. So how do we circulate among the community that an open house is going to take place? So in case of a corporate setting, there would be some emails that would be sent to the company-wide audience. But how do we do that for a community club?
Well, I'll answer the question, right, in the same way that I answered earlier. If you're talking about a geography, suppose you're taking a suburb of Pune, just for example, right? You say that there's a club potential here. Now you figure out where is it that the people who might be potential members for our club could be there. That's why I spoke about you create posters and you put it up in possibly gyms. You put it up in libraries. You put it up in places where potentially your customers might come to. So you might put it at some good fast food restaurant because that younger crowd, working crowd might become maybe mess, right? Because these are all the places where is it that you want your potential customers to come from? You are creating a club, just for example, for housewives. Then you might be putting up in beauty parlors and at vegetable shopping outlets, because you never know. There are enough women who are interested. Now, if somebody puts in the effort, why not?
Right.
So that is the way you might do it. Now, if I suppose now I had to, if we had to open a club in a new city in Maharashtra, let's take Satara, just for example, right? Then what would I do? I would like to say that, hey, what are the communities in Facebook for Satara, right? That I can be a part of. So you do a Google search or you go to Facebook and you search Satara, you will find various communities in Satara. You become a member of that community. You start posting there. You create that awareness there, right? So this is what you will do. You are a part of some other association for cost accountants. Now you post it there and say, hey, this is a good, I mean, it'll take permission from your admins and all or whatever like that, so that nobody objects to it, but put it out or do a tag with them and have a conversation with whichever way. So these are the mechanisms that you take to do the awareness and interest before you go to the next stage of conviction as it is.
Yeah.
Does that answer?
Yes.
Okay. Anything else? Anybody? Okay. So we'll come to the last part of the action part. So when it comes to an action part, what is the action really required? All of us, we know that you do require to have 20 people to charter a new club, right? We know all know that. So the first requirement is to all of these actions that you're doing, you now have gathered a bunch of people, at least about 20 people, who are interested in being a part of that. Let's take a community club right now. So just for example, I've been involved in efforts to get a club chartered in Indore and Ahmedabad, right? And Entrepreneurs Club in those cities. So we've done this. We've gone to forums. We've done these presentations. We've had even a demo meeting that we did in Indore, for that matter, with all the local Toastmasters there. Now, all those people who are interested, this is the mechanism I followed for Indore. I'm not saying whatever decision you might take, I'm automatically recounting an example of what I did in real life. So the people who are interested, we said, why don't you pay 500 rupees or 1,000 rupees as your interesting? Because, somebody says I'm interested, and because it takes time to be able to charter a community club. Overnight nahi hota. It might take 2-3 months, 6 months to do that sometimes, right? So let them commit to something. So, and then make one of them only as a treasurer, somebody that you trust and have confidence in, make the treasurer. Keep that money with that person. And keep doing that effort till the time you get 20 people. Now, once you have 20 people and you have that thing put in, between the conviction and action is where you obviously communicate your fee structure. What does it cost when you have to join, and joining fees and membership fees and all of that stuff. So you have that specified. So when you want to be wanting to charter the club, that means before that time, you start collecting that full money now, or the balance amount now, from all of those people. Obviously, right? So one good way to do that is either if there is another club, you could put that money into that club account, or suppose there is no other club there, it could be one of the people who's acting as a treasurer, who's collecting that money on behalf of everybody, right? So that is the process that you do. Then after that, what you really put in is complete of all the documents that are related. And before you do that, one of the other elements you have to do is to also identify a small set of people who will be the leadership team for the XCOM for the first time it sets up. Because you won't be able to do possibly an election if you're able to do, because you're still not formed. So it could be an informal kind of an election or a selection process where people say that, okay, I'm willing to take up a role. Now they don't know what the roles are and all that in detail right now, because till the time a club is not formed, you're not going to sit down and train them. So let them only volunteer to take up leadership roles. You can put that as a first level kind of a, let's call it an XCOM. And to get a club chartered or off the ground, you need only 3 at least names. You don't need all the 7 XCOM officers to get the club chartered. You need only 3 people who need. So you need to have president, you need to have a vice president, and it's not an education membership, anything, just a vice president, and you need to have a treasurer, right? These 3 things that the positions if you have. So at least have these 3 positions identified before you charter. Then you complete off all the club forms that are. There are a set of 6 forms. And any of you all, obviously, if you go to Google search and you search for it, you'll get it. So it's a bunch of 6 forms that you have that have to be filled up. In fact, this is where the crucial part of the sponsor's role comes in. This documentation is I'm not saying very complex, but you need to understand the nuances of what to fill in and all of that stuff. So take the help of your area director, or take the help of your division directors to ensure that these forms are filled. Right. So all of these forms have to be filled up. The information about all your members have to be put in an Excel sheet. So basically you have the entire kit now to charter a club ready. You have the members, you have their payments, and you have identified 3 leaders that you'll put in, as well as you now created the documents that will be submitted to Toastmasters. Now, you can also split up a chartering process into 2 parts. You can do a pre-charter where you just pay the pre-charter fee of $125 to Toastmasters, so that the Toastmasters International issues you a club number. So that can be done independently. You don't have to do it simultaneously with the rest of the stuff. And you can do it even before the entire 20 members. If you have confidence, right, that you are able to put that together, or if a corporate wants to, and we'll come to a corporate later on. So you can always do that $125 separately, get the club charter done, which means you get a club number. And then you complete up all the other forms, that is the rest of the forms, and submit them to Toastmasters. And through that process, then they will validate the form. They'll come back with any queries if they want. And through that process is where a club ultimately gets chartered. Okay, so this is for a community club that has specified the route to. I'm going to again pause here for a moment. And if anybody has questions that are related to chartering a community club, you can ask that now. How many of you have seen these forms that I'm referring to? Form 1, Form 2. I mean, obviously, Usha, you've seen. Obviously, Venkatesh, you've seen. Yeah, Meenal, you've seen that. Okay, Dinesh, wonderful. So the other, amongst the people who are non-district officers today, or you're interested in that, I recommend that you take a look. And obviously, Ashraf, one of the things you can do is all the people who attended the meeting, can you send them, register to this meeting, send them the set of 6 forms that we have, 6A and 6B. That means technically there are 7 forms, but by numbering there are 6 forms, and technically there are 7 forms, right? So share this whole bunch of documents with people. Take a look at it so that if you are a sponsor in future, you're not going to be shocked by, my God, itna sab kya karna hai? And in the future, if anybody of you needs any help to be able to figure out how these forms are filled, obviously your ADs or your division directors or district officer are a choice. But then I will not say feel free, but if you do not get answers there, then you can come to me. But don't come to me directly first. Go to your AD, go to your division director, go to your district officers. For some reason, if you're not able to find the answers, then reach out to me. I'm happy to help out to figure out how to get these forms, what is to be filled and all, because that by itself can be a session of training by itself. But you need to only address it when you come there. So we don't have to do it now. Any questions for a community club? No? Okay. So let's go to, Ashraf.
I don't know if we will cover it later, but since we're talking about chartering, what all finances can you discuss about those, if possible? Is it different from corporate and community?
No difference at all. The costs are still the same. In fact, the cost, one good thing about Toastmasters is no matter which part of the world and where on the earth are you chartering a club, and no matter what kind of a club you are chartering, the costs are still, the investments, and I call them investment. In fact, that's one more term that you should keep in mind. Never talk about your expenses as costs. Always talk about them as investments, whether you go anywhere, because this is actually an investment, right? So you should always talk the language of investment, saying that the investment required to start a Toastmasters club is obviously knows to charter a club. There is a club charter fee of $125, which all of us know. After that, the second element that comes in is a new member fee of $20. Now, if somebody has been a Toastmaster anytime in the past and has its Toastmasters membership number, then that is waived. So this is only applicable for somebody who's becoming a member of Toastmasters for the first time ever. And then after that, what you really have is monthly fees, which are now $10 per month. And then over and above that, in a community club, you also have to, in fact, it's a small decision that has to be made that beyond the Toastmaster fees, what is the additional amount of money that has to be collected to be able to support the running or functioning of the club. So you require 200 rupees per month or 250 rupees a month. So as per that, right? So that decision you'll have to take. So $10 per month into the number of months that you typically have. Typically, I normally tell people is minimum 6 months fees you should be taking. But if you actually are in the mid-term and in terms of your renewal cycles, then it might actually make sense that if you have 8 more months for the renewal cycle, take 8 months fees, because after 2 months to go back and ask them now you pay money again becomes very odd. So do the maths. If you are in the April cycle or the October cycle, if you're in between that, just for example, now we are sitting in the month of August. If you're going to charter a club in September, right? So instead of taking 6 months fees, take 7 month fees, because automatically now they are renewed till March rather than getting renewed till now. Or else, for that matter, even if you are at 9 months, take 9 months fees. Because after 2 months or 3 months to go to a new member and say that, hey, now pay another amount of fees again, it seems odd, because they will say, "Arey, mera membership to wahan tak hai." I mean, technically, if you take 6 months fees from September, his membership is valid till end of February. But you'll land up going to him in the end of September again and saying, now pay 1 more month fee. So it doesn't sound good. So I see now 3 hands coming up. So you'll have to address those questions. Venkatesh, I hope I've answered the monetary question, Ashraf. Okay, Venkatesh.
Sir, I have 2 questions which is related to the community club, since we are discussing community club. First of all, the leads which are coming in when we conduct a demo meeting, we will have certain set of leads, and we talked that the total cycle time is like 3 months, 4 months, up to 8 months, or even 1 year. How do we hold the leads, the guests who are coming in, or even if we are taking money from them, the club is not chartered? So what do you suggest on that? That is first question. And second is, if it's a community club, there are the club dues. Apart from the membership dues, there are the club dues which are called like rent, or maybe a stationery, or whatever expenses which club has to put in. How do we take care of those club dues before even chartering the club? So these are the 2 questions.
Let me answer the 2 questions quickly. First element is that you keep your members engaged by 2 things. if you're not yet chartered, depending on how far you feel you're going to be, ensure that, at least once in a fortnight or once in a month, you engage with your members, call them together, do informal meetings, do semi-complete meeting. That means you don't necessarily do speeches, you do table topics, stuff like that. That's part A. Part B is invite them to some other club meetings so that they keep experiencing and they learn about Toastmasters, even if they have not become members right now, right? They can do that. Third thing, like I've told you, is that don't take the full amount unless you're very close to chartering, because once you take the full amount and then you delay it for 3 months, then people are going to be unhappy, right? So my recommendation normally is take the full fees about a month before your chartering is going to be, you're sure about chartering. If you take it 3-6 months in advance, then people are going to be very unhappy. Then you'll have trouble on your hands, which we don't want. We don't want people having a negative attitude. So I hope I've answered part A of your question. That what do you do? Engage those prospective members. Make sure that you're connecting to them. Create a group, share things, keep a conversation on. And let them feel that something is adding value to them, even if they've not become a Toastmaster. That's very, very important. I'll come to the second part of your question, that what do you do? So obviously, when you are going to charter a club, you would have figured out where do you want to do the meeting, because that's an essential part of decision to charter a club. There's no point in saying that I will charter a new club in NIBM Kondwa, but I've not figured out where the meetings will happen, just for example, right? Now, or Undri. Now, first of all, hand in hand with getting a new club done is also figuring out where the club will meet. Now, we all know that there is a restriction of the amount of money that you can start paying as rent for a venue. So you'll have to look for venues which are free. That's the best choice, or which are inexpensive, right? So those are attached decision point that have happened. Now, once you are clear that this is the kind of an expense that will incur to run a club, because you are paying 500 rupees for a venue or 1,000 rupees for a venue for a meeting, that is how your maths really comes out to say that, hey, if this is the kind of cost I'm incurring, now that is the reason why you have to be frugal in terms of a venue. Free venue is ideal, but a very low cost venue is really required. So understanding that, typically now if somebody is paying 800 rupees, just for example, $10, 800 rupees. Now you can't ask them to pay another 800 rupees as club dues, right? So at the most, you might be taking 300 rupees or 400 rupees, depending on your maths, which is something that you should work along with your area director and take a decision at the division director saying, hey, what should be the fees? And you should try to look at what are the other clubs around you charging. Because if other clubs are charging 1,000 rupees and you charge 1,250, right, then members won't come to you. So that's also something you have to keep in mind. I hope that answered your second question also.
Yeah, sir. Only one concern, that is on the first question, that the leads which we were talking and keeping them engaged. What happens is most of the time they keep visiting multiple clubs and they join. They take a decision and join somewhere. So it is very difficult to hold them. So do you have?
Yeah, that's okay. Think like this, that you help them to join the community. And that's the reason why. See, I'm talking about Aurangabad. It took us 1 year because there was no other club there, right? So it was fine. You are completely right. You can't take 1 year to charter a club in Pune, because you're absolutely right. People will go and join other clubs. So if you are doing in Pune, try to keep a shorter time frame of at the most 3 months. I mean, target that if I put in efforts, in 3 months, I'll get a club chartered. In 3 months, you'll be able to hold people. Longer, you might not be able to hold. Yeah, so now you had a question.
Thanks, sir.
Yeah, I had a different question, but just in continuation with what Toastmaster Dinesh asked, I just wanted to understand that I agree that there will be a time before you start actually the club. But before you process with all the formalities, can we actually start meeting and having
you can do pre-charter meetings. You can do pre-charter meetings. That is not a problem.
Okay, so that's how you
I call them. Yeah, you can do. In fact, like I said, Aurangabad, for 1 year it took us. In the last about 4 or 5 months, every time we were actually, in the last 3 months, we were doing actually meetings every 15 days or stuff like that. Or 1 month, we were doing pre-charter meetings. You can do pre-charter meetings.
Okay.
But obviously, don't stretch that too long again.
Okay. Yeah, I had a different question. I wanted to just ask, is it always advisable to have a community club with a theme, or we can just keep it open for all? Which one would work easier?
It depends, what do your members find value in? If suppose you're creating a theme around, just for example, teachers, right? So now if people who from that community, if they benefit from each other's experience because you're either leveraging themes or you're creating elements to add value to them from that focus area, and that's the reason why the Entrepreneurs Club is successful, right? Because what we offer to founders or entrepreneurs is where they find value in this community. That's why they come and join us. So you will have to ensure that you create value for the people who join you. That's very important. If you don't do that, then it's not going to work. Then it is better to make it an open club and make it open to anybody to join. If you're doing a thematic or something like that, then ensure that you're adding value. It's not just about ring fencing and saying only these people can join. The people who join should see value in their personal or professional growth in their domain because you created a thematic club. Does that answer your question, Swapna? Yes, sir. Swapnil, Sushil, you have either a question or a point to add.
Well, I just had one suggestion, because Toastmaster is a transformational journey that we are actually taking place in each meeting. And this transformation, it doesn't happen overnight. It takes some amount of time. And if you look at, the amount of time that required, let us say even for one pathway to complete, it spans more than 12 months. So to have better return to the investment of all members who are participating, what we do advocate is that what we are doing here in Toastmaster meeting is changing habits, making transformation, and that takes good amount of time. So we do encourage new members and new clubs to enroll for a longer period of time, like at least a year or so. The purpose is very simple, because if you don't see transformation within 6 months, 8 months, and then you'll say that, okay, nothing is happening, and then you go back to your own route. And that hampers the value that we could add to the Toastmaster member. So that is one of the reasons that we want clubs, new clubs and new members to get engaged for a longer period of time.
Okay. Thanks, Sushil. Thanks for that input. So keep that in mind as the directive of the CGD. Try to ensure that you take 1 year fees. Yeah, Srividya, you had a question?
Yeah, Ajay, very quick doubt actually. This is further to the point raised for community club. So if I form a club with teachers, it is targeted for teachers. It is not necessary that the public cannot join in, right? Just that it is a thematic club. Anybody who's interested can join in as a member. It works that way.
You can decide as per your club charter. Don't forget that a club is an independent entity within Toastmasters. The club can make its rules. Like in the beginning, when we started the Entrepreneurs Club, we had voting for new members. That means all the current members would vote for a new member who applied to join the club. It was not automatic. So anybody cannot join it. In fact, we have rejected people who applied for membership because they didn't fit into our definition of what we wanted. Because Entrepreneur Club had 3 criteria. Either you're an entrepreneur, or you intend to be an entrepreneur, or you support entrepreneurship. Now, if you did not fit in these 3 criteria, so we've had students that we rejected because said, we want a community where people are able to add value to each other, and student is going to be getting value but is not able to add value. I'm just saying, even though we had some students who are entrepreneurs in their college days itself, during college itself, they have started businesses, they became members of ours and stuff like that. So it's a completely club decision. You can make it thematic, you can keep it open to everybody who's also interested, or you can make it restricted in terms of who's allowed to become a member through processes like club voting, right?
Okay.
So that option is up to you for the club. Thanks. Yeah.
Thanks, Ajay.
Okay, so I think we have eaten enough time for the action stage of a community club. Let's get to a corporate club now. Are we good? Yeah. So those who have finished their question, you can put down your hand so that when new questions come up, you can put up your hand again. So let me come to a corporate club. Now, when it comes to a corporate club, the approach becomes slightly different. Like I said, in a community club, you'll be doing all of this stuff, taking time, getting money and all. Now, corporate clubs, there are various options that you have to have a corporate club chartered. Now, in the first place, if you have an interest from the leadership team in the organization itself to charter a club within their corporate or an organization, then that's a great thing. Then obviously what you really have to look at is, first of all, do they have the budgets? Now, budgets is not a big deal for any organization, because even if you look at the maths for a Toastmasters club, do the entire maths put together, $125, just for example, $20 into 20 people. Technically, even if you start a club with only 20 people, that's just $400. Then $10 into 1 year, if it's like Sushil's logic, right? $120 into 20 people, right? You're talking about $2,400. So $2,400 plus $400 is $2,800, plus 125 is $2,925. That's all it takes. $3,000 is equivalent to about how much? कोई मैथ्स में है? गड़बड़ हो गया सबका.
2,40,000.
That's right. So 2,40,000 rupees is not a big investment for any organization. They spend much more than that in training, much more than that for employee activities, right? So technically speaking, and we are talking about 1 year. So, it's not a small amount. It's not a big amount of money at all. But you have to ensure that you are clear, does the organization have the budget, or where is the leadership? That means, take an agreement on that. Now that's the starting point. Why it is good is because getting the payment made through the corporate directly in the beginning is always a great idea. It smoothens the process. Now, obviously, at one end of it, you have to have employees who are interested or nominated by the organization, or you have at that minimum number of people required. Now, one rationale that I tell to a lot of people is it's always good to start a club with 20 people and then add in more people subsequently, rather than chartering a club with 25, 30, 35 people. Even in a community club that applies, even in a corporate club it applies. Why? Is because as a club, right, you also have DCP points subsequently. So even if you have additional members over 20, charter a club with 20 members and then add in the other people later on is one thought. Now the corporate might say, no, we want to get them all together, then it's fine. Then get them all done simultaneously. That's part there. So the advantage with that is that the entire payment is going to be made by the company. You don't have to be worried about keeping that money, stuff like that. The only element that comes into play here is that the payment transfer to TI that really happens, right? And Sushil, this is where I want you to step in, because I'm not familiar with the current mechanisms of payment transfer that a corporate can do. Obviously, you have a credit card that you can use, a personal credit card of any of the leaders, which is automatically an option. You also have the transfer through a bank transfer that can be done. These are the two options. Are there any other options that are available currently right now to corporate?
Unfortunately, these are the two options which are available: wire transfer and using corporate or using credit card rather.
Yeah. So something you'll have to be mindful of, that a lot of organizations have this policy of whom the payment being made, vendor registration, and all this stuff. So please be mindful, because of which a credit card, a corporate card of any of the leaders is the best way to do this. Because if the company finance team has to make a payment, then it becomes very complicated, because they need a vendor registration and all that stuff. So I normally recommend that you sell this upfront to the corporate and organization, saying that, hey, the best way to do this, because the amount again is not very large, 2.4 lakh rupees, even if technically somebody has to pay from a corporate credit card, senior leaders, and this is the reason why senior leadership team involvement is very important. If you work with junior leaders in the organization, then they will have it very difficult to convince the senior leadership. That means it's very important that when you're getting a corporate club chartered, even if you initiated the conversation through junior leaders, ensure that you're buy-in of the senior leadership team into the concept. They are supporting this, because when they are supporting it, they will also support any of these other elements of payments and all that stuff. Okay. So that's very, very important to do. And my recommendation normally is have one of the leaders to get the payment done through their corporate card and get it reimbursed subsequently from the organization. It is doable. Organizations, if it was maybe 10 crore rupees, they will have a thought. But if it is 2.5 lakh rupees, pretty much possible. Because you travel internationally once, any senior leader, that trip itself they will land up, charging to their credit card 5-10 lakh rupees. So they have the limits, they have the ability, and they have the capability of spending that money. Dinesh, you had a question, you raise your hand.
Sir, I have a couple of points. One is, when we charter the corporate club, there are few documents related to taxation many corporates need. Those are available for download on Toastmasters website. And second, many a times corporate ask for invoice. So they pay against the invoice. So that invoice we can generate ourselves. We do not need to go to new clubs and generate it. So there is a way to generate it. We can do it ourselves. That just expedites the process.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Thanks for that, Dinesh. So very valid point. There are documents that typically corporates require. Those are available in the district. So reach out to the area director, division director, or the CJD, and they can help you with getting all of that also. So those will also help you. In fact, this is one place where I'll answer a question that came up earlier in terms of, do we have documents and templates that we can really use when we're going to the corporates. So as I definitely know that the earlier team has created, even including a presentation to be made. Our earlier CGT Milind had put it together. I'm sure Sushil and his team has worked upon creating all the other templates and formats that are available for you to put in an introduction or to do any other steps that are really required. So you will have all of this material available to you within district. Sushil, you want to comment on that?
Yes, Ajay. In fact, I do acknowledge Milind's hard work there to creating the new Charter Club kit. And our objective is simple. We want to build on what we have already. We don't want to, start afresh and then spend time in learning as a district officers. So we are going to use the same presentation with a tweaked reference of annual renewals and the $60 payment cycle which is coming up. So those are like few changes that we are adding, but apart from that, it is going to be much similar. It is going to be released soon onto the website.
Great. So all the documents will be available to you, including when you want open house presentations, including all of that. All these documents are available to you. You don't have to sit from scratch and generate them. Email templates will be there, and including, like rightly Dinesh said, any document that they need from invoices point of view, and as well as taxation point of view. All of these are available from the district, and they'll be made available. You don't have to run around for those if you want to find. So that is the mechanism that you really follow to do this. Now, there could be another mechanism where sometimes it might be a hybrid. A corporate says we might not invest everything for the employee. We might only pay the charter fees, so they'll say partial payment will make. So then normally the charter fee being paid by the corporate is a good idea, because then that is how they can say that this is a corporate club, right? What is the point if all the employees are only paying money and chartering a club? It's like, so the corporate becomes a twofold advantage. One is that it becomes a club for their employees. The second is they give you the venue and everything else free of cost, because you are able to hold meetings within their premises, right? So you have that advantage, as well as you have support for some other things that you might require as it is. So definitely, if the corporate is not willing to put the entire investment for all the fees, like 2.5 lakhs or $2,950, like $2,925, like we said, then convert that and saying that, okay, as an organization, are you willing? $125 is the minimum that you should be thinking. The next level to that, you can negotiate with the organization is, instead of 125, also have that $20 new member fee that you pay for every new member. So that they can do. And the monthly fees your employees can do. So that's a good combination. Even if they are not willing to put entire everything, then 125 plus 400, then the investment is only $525, right? Which is not a big deal for any corporate. So you should then motivate them and figure it out in a conversation. Can they at least get in $525 at a minimum? वो भी नहीं हो गया तो $125 तो minimum ले ही लो, बराबर है ना? वो तो definitely corporate को देना चाहिए. So this is where it starts, and then the employees pay. Now, when an employees pay, again, Sushil, you have a point?
Sir, I have one more question. Sorry.
Okay, Dinesh, I will just add one point and then quickly hand it over. So I also want to suggest that when we are setting up a corporate club, do take additional budget for things like contest and all other club operations. So community club, we collect the money from the members, but in corporate club we want that money to come from corporate budget, because it is eventually promoting employee engagement and learning and development of its employee, which is part and parcel of leading an organization. So create, apart from the Toastmaster budget, a small budget, even if it is like 1 lakh rupees, that can be suggested.
Good point.
Operations.
Good point. So when you're talking to the leadership team, ensure that besides the money that you're earmarking for the Toastmasters fees, right, ensure that there is an additional budget earmarked for anything supporting contests and special meetings, gifts, giveaways, certificates, all of that stuff put together. Ensure that you create a small budget for that too, right? So those are the important elements. And the same way when it comes to employees, in this particular case, what really happens is now if the corporate is paying for that and the employees are going to pay their own fees, now just like you did in a community club, you might have to nominate somebody to become the interim treasurer, get in all the money from all the employees into one account and ensure that that is the same way paid into Toastmasters in one shot, because that avoids the confusion of everybody paying individually and all that stuff. So ensure that in the same way that you're in a community club, nominate one person as an interim treasurer, let that person collect that money, and then let that person make the payment to TI. And the TI corporate makes the payment like that. So this is the way that you'll end up doing. Again, the forms are exactly the same. There is no difference. Only element that you put down there is obviously if the organization does not want other people to attend their club meeting, then it is restricted. There is an option in the form, charter forms, that you mark what kind of a club it is. So this is very important to do that in the club charter. And again, the address and all of these elements are important for you to do. So this is something that the slight variation when you fill up the form, but otherwise mostly everything else is the same. Dinesh, you had a point?
Sir, I have a question, different one. So sometimes what happens is the corporates, they ask employees to pay upfront, and they reimburse some of them. They reimburse completely or fully some of them, and then they reimburse based on the receipt. Now there is a way to generate the receipt. We have that form, but it's like manually generated. It doesn't have a number, proper receipt number or something. So I haven't had this before, but I suspect, I am afraid that some point in time I'll have this problem that corporates say, okay, this is not proper receipt. We need receipt from TI which can be reimbursed.
Well, I'll only tell you one thing, Dinesh, that I mean, I obviously have done enough corporate clubs and I've worked with enough corporate clubs, including where reimbursement is there. It won't matter. If you have the leadership team aligned and you ensure that the finance and accounts team is informed that this is an acceptable receipt and payment, at least I've never encountered this issue in any club that I've worked with. I suspect that it should not be there. And this is exactly the reason why senior leadership support to the Toastmasters club is so critical. Ensure that when the club is getting chartered, you call that senior person, let them inaugurate. Like when we did the Persistent Club, Anand Deshpande himself, right? He came in when we did 2 clubs in Persistent and one shot. Anand Deshpande, we did it in his auditorium. They gave us the auditorium and we had a full event where Anand Deshpande inaugurated the 2 clubs. Now, when the finance team sees, your the CEO, your founder, those are the people who are supporting the club, they will not raise issues. And this is exactly the reason why when you work only with junior people, you'll face issues because everybody else will put up an hurdle in you. But when senior people are supporting the club, you will not face an issue. And if it happens an issue, then you go and talk to them then. Because you're not trying to do it for financial gain to yourself. So they understand that. And that is the reason why they'll always support you.
Got it. Thank you.
Yeah. So that's a good point you made, Dinesh, that besides these 2 options, there's a third option which also comes in where a corporate, in fact, believe me, I mean, I'll tell you at a personal level, I tell this to corporate. First year, even if you pay, next year, ask the employee to pay and join the club and you reimburse. The advantage only is that when an employee pays the money and he joins the club and he gets reimbursed, then you have a commitment. Otherwise, I've seen corporate clubs where the company is paying the money and people don't turn up for meeting. Now, what's the point in creating a club like that? We don't want a paper club, right? We don't want a club where money for 20 or 25 people is paid by the company because they have a budget. But tomorrow, nobody's attending the meeting. Why? Is because, they don't see the need themselves. So it's somebody, when they pay the money themselves, then they're acknowledging that I have a need, I have a challenge, or I need to improve. And then they're getting reimbursed. So it's a great system, believe me. Personally, I'm a fan of employee reimbursement. I'm not a fan of the corporate paying. This is personally. But there are exceptions, like, if I'm not wrong, there are corporates within even our district where entirely the money is paid and they're running well. So I'm not saying that there cannot be exceptions to this rule. But generally speaking, I have seen that if a company pays entirely and the employees are not committed, the club will fail down the line. So, you have to think about this line very carefully because you just want to charter a club for the sake of having a club on for 3 months or 6 months, right? You want a strong club that continues over a period of time. And that is what the real value addition becomes. So those are my quick inputs. Sushil, you had something to add?
Yeah, that makes sense. Thank you.
Thank you, Dinesh. And in fact, ours is a club which is 100% sponsored. For all employees, they don't pay any kind of fee. And the conviction here is that the investment is of time because the money investment is very small. And this is the exact reason we see absenteeism or less turnout in a meeting. But the way we have tackled it is we have attached Toastmaster into an individual's development goal and individual's performance goal. So either it is part of their performance goal or individual development goal. And that way it becomes easy for management, his own supervisor, to track the progress. And since it goes into either of these two buckets, then employee also gets serious, because this is two-way affecting: one, skill improvement, and again tied to their aspiration. So we are trying to tie both these two objectives in one shot, and that's how we are able to run it successfully so far.
Wonderful. And I know also some corporate clubs which are completely sponsored by the company. What the club does is that if you want to join the club, you have to demonstrate your commitment by attending a certain number of meetings first as a guest. So only if you attend that many meetings, then you will be considered in the next cycle and stuff like that. So these are some good practice, but that's for operating a club, which today's training is about sponsorship. So I don't want to get into that. But these are things to be kept in mind when you get a club sponsored, that these are all the alternatives that could be possible later on after the club is chartered. So keep that in mind. So this is the exact same that they do. Now, if you really look at it, college club will be more or less a combination of the corporate or a community club, right? In the same way. A lot of colleges, the college might pay fees, or the college might say that we don't pay anything. We'll just give you the venue and the rest can be run. So it will be a permutation and combination between the community club and the corporate club, where a college club might really create as it is. The element that we have spoken about when it comes to any of the thematic clubs are ultimately only community clubs, right? The difference is only about how do you look at it. That's about it. But everything else and the action stays exactly the same. The only difference will be an advanced club. When you do an advanced club, that's the only slight difference there. But like I said, if anybody wants you to charter an advanced club, then come to me, I'll help you, because I know that not many clubs will get chartered. But the only thing that differs is nobody will have to pay that $20, because that's not applicable. But $125 that you will mind out doing will have to be either contributed by some other club who become the club sponsor, or it can be done by the members. So this is where I'll come to community clubs or any of these clubs as a sponsor, right? And that $125, this is where you could actually leverage some of your other community clubs. So when, just for example, like we had the first entrepreneurs club that got chartered, when that club was chartered, then the $125 was contributed by all the members who became the initial charter members of the club. So they are the only people who contributed $125 each. I mean, 125 divided by 20, right? So each of them paid $6.50 there, $6.25. But the second club, when we chartered, then the first club sponsored the second club, right? When the third club we chartered in Pune itself, then the first and the second club sponsored the third club. So you could also do that. In fact, some of the other clubs like Rainbow Toastmasters, some of these clubs have been sponsored by some of the other community clubs, right? Because the clubs from their own funds said that we will contribute $125. Two clubs contributed, like I know Rainbow, because I was again a charter member there. Two clubs contributed to chartering that club. So $125 came from two clubs. So in a community club, you can also look around. Like you might be a part of a club, and which that club might be willing to sponsor if they have funds, that is. So look around you. You might actually find other clubs. I know originally when this district was 41 and TMCP was the mother club right at that point of time, I know it had landed up sponsoring a lot of the clubs that came across. So why do you have Northwest, Southeast, or all of these clubs? Is because it was something that became part of each other clubs sponsoring each other. So as a community, if we are able to help other clubs get chartered, it's good for us, right? So that's the way we look at it. So obviously the club ExCom committee will have to pass a decision, members have to vote on it, all that stuff. But I think it's a great practice to do, because that ensures that later on, those sponsor clubs also support your club after it gets chartered, right? So these are all the things that we get covered in terms of getting a club chartered and the action stage. So I'm going to stop here for a moment. I know we have answered some questions along the way. If there are any more questions, we'll answer that. I know that I had thought originally that we'll actually do this session in under 1 hour, but now Ashraf is wondering when am I going to stop now, because I can already see him seeing his clock and watch. Any questions on chartering, process, forms, payment, fees, anything? Yeah, Ashraf.
Yeah. I I thought of a question during the community club segment of the session, but since we moved on, but I'd like to ask it now since we're talking about financials. One of the expenses for community clubs over and above membership fees is the venue and mainly the venue. So the community club needs to have a bank account, and approaching banks with documentation sometimes is a challenge.
Okay.
Help us understand how do we approach it.
So I think we should reserve this for the club mentor training.
Okay.
Because I'm again repeating, right? There is no dearth of what we can speak about in terms of how to get that done. So as a sponsor, and this is where the definition of the sponsor thing really happens, right? The sponsor is involved because this is a club sponsor training. I'm specifying that the sponsor is involved in all the activities that start from where the club is going to be set up, what will be the effort that will take in to get the club off the ground, getting the documentations done, completing the process as far as TI is concerned, and doing all of this to get a club functional, right? So this is the role of the sponsor. Once the club is chartered, right? In fact, you will also specify when the chartering is being done, and this is done in conjunction with the area director or the club, the district mentor chair or something like that. And this is where Shreedhar, like you said, people who are interested in mentoring clubs or coaching clubs do volunteer. So the district will have a list of people who are willing to and happy to support clubs. Again, they get a benefit in their leadership journey, but those are the people that then take over them. And that is the process where when you're talking about now opening a bank account, operating the club, conducting education sessions, all of that, attending XCOM trainings for leaders, all of that will start from that stage. So the sponsor's role ends technically, in my opinion, by the time you come there. But believe me, I personally believe that as a sponsor, it doesn't just end when the club is chartered. I think you should extend that a slightly bit further, even though it's not mandatory. You should extend on because you are the person who's been in touch with everything so far. The mentors haven't been in touch with the organization. So do a handover properly. Get into meetings, get in for the first month or 2 months, right? Get the mentors comfortable, ensure that the leadership team, if there are any concerns or issues. So, don't think that my work ends, club charter ho gaya to. Even though I'm saying on paper, that is the way it is. But take that onus and responsibility goes a little bit further. Ensure it's a smooth transition. Ensure that the new club is set up right. Ensure that the mentors and everybody is functioning right. And if there are concerns, escalate, because the same way you become a sponsor, the club is chartered. But if the things are not done right, then things will go wrong very, very soon. So the onus is still on us to ensure that we've set the right foundation in that initial phase. So that is my personal recommendation. I'm not saying it's mandatory. That's my personal recommendation to anybody who wants to become a sponsor, is take responsibility beyond just the charter of the club to ensuring a proper handover also takes place. Yeah. So I think we've covered all of these elements that we had. Are there any other questions that now were not covered here? And I'm taking a look at some of the questions earlier. And the only thing remaining is an experience to share, which I'll do if I have the time right now. I'm seeing it on my bigger screen, that's why. No, I don't see any other questions. Understanding the role from a cousin, I think we've covered all that. The real life challenges, I think some of the things we've covered, some more we'll try to cover. I don't see any more questions, at least in the past, that comes up. Money matters is covered. Building a team is all about, we've spoken about that as it is. Journey to a sponsor. Yeah, so at least whatever questions were there in the chat, I think we have covered that. And Swapna also, how to pitch, even that's done. Okay, what else? Anything else? Everyone want to sleep. At least the ones with the videos off. Okay, so we'll come to maybe.
No, I have to ask a question, I guess.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. I just wanted to share my experience that I wanted to start a club in a corporate. I spoke to them, I gave the presentation, and everything went on for a long time. And after that, the owner of the company is very much interested, and I could see that he's interested. But then he says that his employees are not, showing any interest. Then what do I do?
Absolutely valid. Why would he want to push something on his employees if the employees are not interested? So this is where my point goes back to awareness and interest, right? So you start with awareness and interest in the decision makers, and then you take it to the next level and awareness and interest amongst the people who will be potential members of your club. right? That effort you have to invest into. And there are several ways to do this. In fact, maybe let me connect this to a story, right? Of an actual opening of a club that I did when I was an area director. It was one of the first clubs I opened when I became an area director. This was in a small company called Eazest in Hinjewadi. Okay, I knew the owner personally. He was a good friend of mine. So I went to him because I said, that's the friends and families are the fastest way to open clubs, right? So I went to him as the founder, and it's not a very big company actually. At that point of time, there were just about 400 people in their Hinjewadi office. They were in phase 1. So I went to him and said that, and incidentally, all my clubs that geographically was very far for me, but I knew him. That's the reason why I spoke to him. So he was very keen. He said, no problem, Ajay, you are recommending, let's go and do it now. But now the biggest problem was that, like you rightly said, how do we get employees interested? So now you had the owner's buy-in. He said, no problem, I'll support you, right? Now we went to the next stage. So what we did was that we ran these open house sessions, right? We went in, we did an all hands kind of meeting. So he set it up and we had all the employees in their hall where we actually spoke about, hey, this is Toastmasters, the benefit of it. Now, one of the first things we asked people, have any of you been a Toastmaster in the past? Okay. And then we had only one person, mind you, in that 400 people organization, we had only one person. And he had been a Toastmaster for only 6 months before that. And that also, he didn't even attend meetings properly. Okay. And he had left them. And that is the only person that we had. So we latched on to him, first of all. Then we said, who are the other enthusiastic members? So we asked the HR team and the owners, who are some of the other enthusiastic members in your organization that can be a part of this process? So like that, we identified 3-4 people. And these are not necessarily senior leaders and all. They were actually from the team itself, absolutely frontline individual contributors. So we created a small core team of 4 or 5 people. Now, this one person who did little bit of Toastmasters, 6 months only, not an experience, and this other enthusiastic bunch of people who were, any organization, right? People are wanting to demonstrate the initiative. Every organization has those kind of people. You should find out who these are and get them into your fold. So they are the ones who are motivated for 2 reasons. First of all, they are enthusiastic. They want to learn. They want to grow. But they also want to, and automatically they know that all of this is visible to the organization also. Now, they are not doing for ulterior motive, but you and I know that automatically the organization notices these things. So, when you do this, we started with that core team. And then they kept putting in the efforts and we kept going back. We did, I think, 3 sessions that we actually did open houses. And because of which, over a period of time, we got people convinced. And then we had all of this thing that the company is going to pay. And, in fact, there we did the same thing, that company will pay and you will pay and the company will reimburse. But the people are motivated by that. Now, when you had those 20 people, we could start the club. Now, that person, he became the first president of the club, right? He went on and, some of the other people who did extremely well as in our district teams also, the great economy came from that club later on. But the point was, you have to put in that effort. Just the owner is not sufficient. Just the HR team is not sufficient. At the ground level also. So this is that effort that is really required. Once you put in that effort and then you support them well. So I used to travel all the way from Koregaon Park to Hinjewadi, right, to attend their meetings. None of my other clubs were there. But that effort you have to also take in, right? That effort the sponsors or the mentor have to take in. If you don't do that, it doesn't work. So we did that, and that is how the club was off the ground. It went through ups and downs. I don't know the state today right now, Sushil, kya hai, but in the past, it almost came to a closure 2 years back. Then we intervened, HR team got involved, stuff like that. All that is different story now. So that's maybe one story. Swapna, I hope I've answered your question partially, if not completely. I can't hear you, Swapna.
No, I lost my network. I've just come back.
Yeah. Did it answer your question?
No, I did not hear you. I don't know.
Oh, sorry, then let's connect offline, then we'll talk about it. Sure. Because anyway, we can do that. We have about 6 minutes left now. I'm going to quickly share the second story quickly so that, don't waste much time right now. And then Ashraf, you can wind up in the last 2-3 minutes. Unless there is something else, Ashraf, that you want to do, then I'll stop right now itself.
No, I think you can go ahead with the story, sir.
So quickly, I'll close it out. So I was always connected to entrepreneurial ecosystem. I saw the need for and business because I saw a lot of people, members of community clubs that I used to be a part of, who are entrepreneurs, who joined Toastmasters and left because they had more important things as far as the business were concerned. They didn't see Toastmasters, communication skill, leadership skill, but how does it help me? It came down in their priority list. So we said, how do we build in value for this community? And that's the reason why we created the concept of the Entrepreneur Club. This is the thematic club. Now, what is thematic about it is the fact that all the themes in Toastmasters Entrepreneurs Club are related to business professionals or entrepreneurs. So concepts that will be useful for them. So when they come and attend a meeting, even if they're not doing a role or speech, they're learning something. We have done workshops. We call in speakers from outside. So these are all the things that we did to add value to that community. But it took us 10 months to get that. And how did you do it in the same fashion? When I got the concept of creating that Entrepreneurs Club, I found out, first of all, fellow Toastmasters who are entrepreneurs. So I identified 2-3 people. I mean, Amol Shegaonkar is among the first one of them, who was a trader by profession, right? And I got him on board. So like this, I identified 3-4 people who were Toastmasters as an experience goes, but were also entrepreneurs. And I convinced them this is a good idea. So then, we had 3-4 people. So there is always an importance to bringing a core team together. So we did that. After that, then we started going to all these communities. Like I was a part of TIE, I was part of some startup communities, and then promoting the concept there. Right. And then we would do these open house sessions. One session every month, we would put it out. We do Facebook. In fact, I've done ads on Facebook with my own pocket money. I mean, jeb se paisa dal ke, we did Facebook ads. I didn't go to the district or anything like that. So why is because I was convinced that's the right concept. So we did that. We had people. So we created Facebook events and LinkedIn events, and people who were interested came to attend these, and where we spoke about this concept. And gradually and slowly we built that out, till the time that we came to this 20 people as it is. In fact, we had more than 20 people, but we closed and chartered with 20. And that is the reason why within club getting chartered, I think in the first 3 months or something like that, we did 5 DCV points, because we were able to we already had members waiting. So 2 DCV points came from that, and saw the other things. So my point is that we did this systematically. We took our time, but we did it well. And that is how the club got chartered, right? And luckily it happened in my term only as an area director again. So, but it was the second club that I chartered, not necessarily the first club as it is. So this was an experience about another community club that we chartered. It takes time and it takes effort. And then the second club we chartered, because the first club we did a very large event. We did a very large open house event. In fact, I don't know whether even the divisions are able to manage that. That event was attended by about 240 people. A club event, right? And we did an auditorium, which we got free, by the way. ISER auditorium, we got free of cost. We did a 240 people. We charged people to attend that event. But because of that, we had so many more people who were interested in joining Toastmasters that we opened a second club in Pune because of that. So that systematic approach helped, because we built something of value to that community. We made it successful. We created large event. We called in external speakers, CEOs and founders. In fact, next Sunday, we have a very big event coming up. All of you are welcome to come for that. It's again a paid event, but you will find the founder of Indigo Paints, who had an IPO recently. He's coming for a talk. So when you bring in such kind of stuff is where you can build value. So these are just 2 examples. And then because this concept was successful, we started having other people from other cities who started approaching, saying that, hey, can you help us to do something similar? So yeah, I mean, I would have attempted to have maybe chartered 40-50 clubs so far. Maybe not all of them were successful. Maybe half of them were successful. So obviously, not necessarily all my efforts gave us clubs. But there are many other clubs that didn't open, which is fine. That doesn't matter. Our job is to put in the effort. So with that, I'm going to end my session out here. Like I've told you, I'll bore you with my words rather than a PPT presentation. So I hope I bored you enough. The fact that all of you are here after 2 hours tells me that I have not bored you enough now. So Ashraf, over to you.
Thank you. Thank you, DTM Ajay. Let's have a huge round of applause for our trainer DTM Ajay. Thank you, DTM Ajay, for sharing your insights and experience. Along with touching to the procedural aspect of the club sponsor role, you also shared a framework, which I think would help us, whoever wants to take up this role, succeed in this role. ICA. That is the biggest takeaway, at least for me. Awareness, interest, conviction, and action. If you follow this framework, I think it could be that our chances of doing well in this role would be more. Thank you for sharing your insights. Before I wrap up, I would quickly like to share my screen and show a couple of things. Is my screen visible?
Yes.
Okay, so in addition to what DTM Ajay shared, we have a club sponsor checklist, which is uploaded on the District 125 website. I would request everyone to go through it. It's kind of a summary of what all things need to be done. as a club sponsor. And if you check all the boxes, you can conclude that your role has been done successfully. There is a lot of other resources on the district website as well as on the Toastmasters International website. There is one manual which the Toastmasters International recommends, which is this: how to build a Toastmasters club. So this is also a comprehensive consolidated manual where you can get all the things that go in building a club right from the scratch, which DTM Ajay already had shared. And so this would be the starting point. I would highly recommend you to all to study this. And if you have any questions, you can reach out to me or our CGD or the district leadership anytime. All right. We will be rolling out the feedback surveys for the feedback for this session. And also there is a quiz that I would like you to take so as to check whether you have understood this role or just to enable you to understand this role better. Let me put it that way. All right. With that, I would like to stop sharing my screen, and I would request you to turn on your cameras for a photograph quickly.
Well, I didn't know this trick. Ashraf, if I had known that हम फोटो निकालने वाले बोलते हैं, लोग कैमरा ऑन करते हैं, तो मैं पहले ही बोल देता.
Even then, final call for switching on the camera, please. Just for a few seconds, not more than that. All right. So those who don't have the camera switch on, we can see your photos with a smile. So that will also work. Anyway, let me take a quick snap. You can smile. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. With that, I announce this session to be concluded. Thank you for attending, and thank you, DTM Ajay, for sharing your experience. Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Ajay sir. Thank you.
For very informative session. And thank you, Ashraf, for conducting this session nicely. Thank you all.
Thank you, Ajay sir.